If everything is good, I can get started.
Okay, so I will introduce Jingwei. First, one logistical point. This is the last seminar for the academic year. So thank you everyone for participating and congrats. We will restart in September, probably in week 1 of the academic calendar. And we already have a lineup of some folks that are interested in participating. So yeah, I want to introduce to Jingwei, who is a postdoc now for about a year, right?
Yes.
A little bit less than a year, working with Mark and doing some very cool work on low-rank approximation of neural network models. I will stop pretending that I know her research better than she does, and I will pass the floor to her. So thank you and welcome.
Okay, thank you. Thanks everyone for coming today. And as Iron just said, I'm a postdoc here, and yeah, and this work we did is like, you know, we use SVD singular value decomposition to look into the Conv TasNet, and we submitted the paper. The conference is taking place this September. Okay, so let me just start looking into the work. So I think this picture gives you the broad overview of what is going on in this whole work. So if you understand it here, you understand, like, you know, what we are doing basically. So what we work on is something called Conv TasNet. So Conv TasNet is a source separation neural network, which means where we have, you know, 2 overlapping speakers, and we put them through this neural network. Then we get separate sources here. I don't know, yeah, if you can see my, yeah, we get separate sources for different speakers. So this source separation neural network, and how it works is that we use the raw audio as input, and we also get raw audio as output. And when we input the raw audio, we put it through an encoder. So it's a one-dimensional convolutional filter bank. So this actually simulates short time fully transform, but it's not exactly the same because the encoder is learned through the neural network training, and this is the latent representation we get after this encoder, and we put it through a separator. So this separator is a consecutive, you know, connected TCM blocks, and then after this separator, we get the different masks for the separate sources, and we multiply these masks over our latent representation W, and we multiply each W with each of the mask. We get this latent representation of our source, and then we push this through this one-dimensional transpose convolution. So this replaces inverse STFT, we get the raw audio. So it's basically I would say a simulated audio processing neural network, and this is how the sources are separated here. And what we do, what we look into is this structure of those TCM blocks. So for each of those blocks, it's a standard construction like this. So first we have the input. We put it through this bottleneck. The bottleneck, actually we call it an expansion layer because we actually expand the channels using this this operation. And here we use these 2 separate steps to replace this 3-dimensional conventional convolutional operator. So this is, we use the one depthwise convolution, and then we use this channel mixing to decompose this conventional convolutional kernel into 2 separate matrices, which actually reduce the computation and make the neural network more, you know, more simple, and we can compute this actually faster. And these 2 operators actually use 2-dimensional matrices instead of 3-dimensional convolutional kernel. And the output, we have 2 types of output. One is the skip connection, and the skip connection actually connects to the last layer here, and the residue output is used as input to the next TCN bottleneck. So the TCN here represents temporal convolutional network. So hope you have a overall understanding of this. Any questions so far? Is that too complicated? But whatever. So this is the structure of the Conv TasNet. So this is, already published work by the group of people who actually, they experimented with Conv TasNet. We just use their overall structure here, and we're just explaining the structure there. So for our work, what we do is that actually we use singular value decomposition, SVD, to look into this operator. So we looked into so after my introduction, you can see there are actually two types of operators throughout Conv TasNet. One is this one-dimensional convolutional kernel. One is this pointwise channel mixing kernel. So only two types of operators throughout Conv TasNet, and these two operators are all of two-dimensional. So for 1D convolutional layer, we treat them so they are actually the filters. So we expand the filters into the Toeplitz operator here. So this can operate or act directly on the input, and we put this Toeplitz operator through the singular value decomposition SVD, and we look into the structure here. And for pointwise layer, so this is actually the linear layer, so which directly acts on the input. And so we apply SVD directly on this matrix W, and we also can use low rank factorization to approximate this kernel so that we can compress the neural network. So this is what we did. So okay, see. So here you can see. So this explains. So these types of operators are one-dimensional convolutional. These are the pointwise 1x1 linear layer, and we have actually 74 such pointwise operators. Okay. So this gives you a more detailed mathematical explanation of what I just explained. This is the 1D convolutional kernel. We write this out as the Toeplitz matrix so that this matrix can act directly on the input to get output, so that this is a linear operator. And for pointwise 1x1, this is the same as the linear transformation, and we multiply this W directly on the input to get output. Okay, and we use singular value decomposition to look into this Toeplitz matrix and this W to investigate the internal dynamic of the neural network. So first, let's look into the convolutional kernel, this 1D filter. So this is the definition of the Toeplitz matrix. So H0 to HK minus 1 is the filter. And if we write it out with straight one, no padding, no dilation, it should look like this, right? And we just transpose this every row by one step. And this is the mathematical explanation for the theory we use. We use the Szegő-type theory, which connects the singular values of the Toeplitz matrix to the filter frequency response. So how it works is that we actually use the gram matrix for the Toeplitz matrix, which is T transpose T. This is the gram matrix of the Toeplitz matrix, and the eigenvalue of this gram matrix is the square of the singular value of Tn. And here, this is the general expression of the Szegő theory. Here, this little j represents any continuous function, but here we actually use identity function here. So this explanation is that it's given here as n grows, the empirical distribution of squared singular value. So this is this expression sigma square approximates this h. So this is the frequency response. So which means that the square of the singular value of the Toeplitz matrix asymptotically approximates the frequency response as this n grows into infinity. So this is the theory. To give a more intuitive explanation, this means that the biggest singular value of the Toeplitz matrix corresponds to the most strongly transmitted pattern by the filter, and the smaller value of the singular value of the Toeplitz matrix corresponds to the attenuated or near null directions of the frequency response. So this gives you a direct map, right? So the larger the singular value is, the stronger the filter, the frequency response it directs to, and the smaller the value, the weaker the filter response is. So so this is what we established. We use this singular value decomposition to look into the Toeplitz matrix, and the theory tells us we can build this direct connection between the singular value to the filter impulse response. I think that's any questions? Okay. So now let's look into the pointwise linear layer. Before we look into the graph, let's get familiar with some definitions. So first, we want to point out that our matrix dimension is only of this size. It's 128 times 512, or vice versa. So this is the unified matrix dimension throughout the Conv TasNet. So we only have these two types of matrix in our pointwise operator, and we will use effective rank. So this is definition of effective rank, where we treat the proportion of the singular value as the probability, and the effective rank is given by the exponential of the entropy, okay, of this expression. So this actually points to the spectral concentration. This is how we, because when the next step, we'll look into the tuning dynamics of the singular values and the singular vectors of the pointwise 1x1 convolutional layer. And this is how we look into the singular values, and this is how we look into the singular vectors. So for singular vectors, we actually use the subspace motion, where we use the principal angles to compare the k-dimensional singular subspaces. So we tried to plot the evolution of the singular vectors, but that was too messy, and because they also change positions, okay, throughout the training. So the dynamics of the evolution of the angle change of singular vectors are pretty messy. So we proposed these measurements to measure the angular change of the singular vectors throughout the training. So we choose this subspace motion, where we construct the k-dimensional subspace of the singular vectors, and we measure the principal angles between the consecutive epochs of those k-dimensional subspaces throughout time, so from t-1 to t. And because the principal angles, we have actually 128 principal angles, in one operation, and we use the Grassmann distance as the metric. So this is actually 2 norm. So we use the 2 norm of the principal angles to measure the distance. So the Grassmann distance gives us the angular change of the consecutive k-dimensional space of the singular vectors. Okay, so this is the definitions and the concept, the tools we use, and this is the plotted result. So this is the training dynamic, the evolution of the singular values throughout our 100 epochs of training, and this is the evolution of the singular vector spaces. So this is the a three-dimensional plot, because when we construct this k-dimensional subspace, right, k can range from 1 to 128, because we have different ranks. So the subspace dimension ranged from 1 to 128, and we also have epochs from 1 to 100, and this head gives us the amplitude. Okay, the amplitude of the left singular space and the right singular spaces. Okay, I hope this is clear somehow. And here you can see this red dotted line, which is the effective rank. So the effective rank gives us an impression of where actually we can truncate, because the effective rank means all the directions, the ranks above this line kind of are they are kind of dominant, and the values below this line they are kind of too small and negligible. We can probably discarding those values. So this is also like how we construct our experiments later on in this low rank truncation. We use different scales of the effective rank. So this is effective rank. We can use half effective rank maybe here, and quarter effective rank maybe here, so we can do more and more aggressive truncations. And for the evolution of the singular vectors, this graph might be a little bit difficult to interpret. But in general, we can see that as the training goes on here, with the epoch goes more, we can see attenuation, or actually the angular change of the consecutive subspaces diminishes. So here we see that subspace they move strongly at the start, then change slowly, which means they just gradually stabilize with the training goes on, which fits our intuition. And here the early stratification means the leading values of the singular values separate within a few epochs. So at very early, only a few epochs, we already identified the dominant directions. This is also useful in our later experiment, because we also use early epoch factorization, where we train the neural network for only a few epochs, then we do the factorization. Okay, so this is what we also use in later experiments. And also it tells us we can do the compression. Any questions here? Okay, just to explain this, you can see here this red surface, right, have this kind of curve here, and this goes to 0 at the end. But this blue surface is actually increasing all the time. The reason is that because the left singular space has rank 128. Okay, but the right space has the rank 512, which means that when the subspace goes to 128, the left subspace will diminish because it reaches the full rank. But the right subspace keeps increasing because its full rank is 512. So it's far from its full rank. So that this explains why we have this kind of curve here for the left subspace, but the right space is different. It's increasing. So this is the graph we get, and this is just a sample from one layer. So we see we have 74 such pointwise layers. This is the layer 72 actually. So all the layers, they have the similar trend. They look similar, but we just take one sample here. Okay, so that I think those things might be too intensive. But now I think we're going to some interesting experiments, which is the main, numerical results for our work, which is the low rank approximation. So using SVD, singular value, this is the singular value decomposition. We can write out our W into three matrices, U, sigma, and V. And we actually use A and B instead of this. And A is the left singular vector, B is the right singular vector, and we distribute the magnitude of singular values evenly to A and B here. So, so this is an intuitive graph of how we do the low rank factorization. When we factor W into A and B, we can actually use this key bottleneck. So key can be a small number, and A and B are of lower rank, much lower rank than the original W. This is how we do the compression. And this also tells us the original matrix has parameter Mn, and the two factors have k times m plus n. And when we use smaller and smaller k, we can get fewer parameters here. And in our experiments, we will replace all our 74 pointwise layers with these two factor factorization with rank key bottleneck, and everything else like the 1D convolutional layers, the filters, encoder, decoder, everything keeps the same. We only change the pointwise layers. Okay, so this gives you an impression of the parameter counting of our neural network. So for Conv TasNet, it in total have these 5.5 million parameters. And the pointwise layers actually take 4.9 million. So which means most of the parameters are in the pointwise layers. And the 1D convolutional layer only have very few parameters. And this also gives us a good reason to operate on the pointwise layers. So if we do the compression at effective rank, as we mentioned before, we can reduce these many parameters, which actually realize a 1.1 times compression to our original neural network. And we will give you the loss, the training, the training loss in our future, the slides afterwards. But yeah, this is just give you an impression of how many parameters we have in this model. And when we do a very small compression, 1.1, we already removed these many parameters. When we do a more aggressive truncations, maybe 2 times, 3 times, we can actually remove millions, like 3 millions, even 2 or 3 millions parameters from the original Conv TasNet. So, so this graph also gives you an impression of the rank distribution across the 23 TCM blocks. So we can see that there is no monotonic rule of the rank distribution. And when we truncate the effective ranks, if we use a global bottleneck, we will miss this structure. Therefore, we use different ranks for each layer based on their own effective rank. Okay, so now let's move into our numerical experiments. We use the general settings of the Conv TasNet. So we use the best setting they tested in their paper of Conv TasNet, which is NLB. So this is the parameter we just transpose from their paper, and the data we use is Liber2Mix, where is 2 mixed speeches sampled at 8 kilohertz, and minimum mode means the input segments. So we use the 4-second segments. These segments are all overlapping speakers, overlapping speeches, and this is we use train development and test splits. This is the proportion of those. So we use 33,000 files of those segments, and develop use 3,800, and test use like 4,000. So this gives you an impression of how we split the set. And this is the loss to train the Conv TasNet. This is also the same as the paper, what the paper used. We use this signal to noise ratio. We use also this scale invariant, which means if you permute the position of the speakers, the results should be the same. So which means, at the end, no matter you have 2 speakers or 3 speakers, those speakers are actually permutable. So we actually did 3 sets of experiments. The first is post hoc fine tuning, which means we train the whole Conv TasNet. We get the best checkpoint, we take the best four model checkpoints, and we use this SVD truncation, use this low rank approximation, and then we fine tune the factored neural network. And the second experiment is the early factorization. So we will kind of pre-train the model with very few epochs, like we use 1, 5, or 10 epochs, and then we factorize the neural network there and continue to train like 100 epochs and see what types of laws we will get. And finally, we will use random initialization, which means the neural network will be initialized with the factored in the factored form with A and B, and we will randomly initialize A and B and train them from scratch. Okay, so this is the different 3 types of settings we will use in the experiments. Any questions here? Okay. If no, we can move on to the result. Okay, so this is the first result, which is the post hoc fine-tuning. So here we actually take the best model. So the best model actually realizes a loss of minus 14.20996. So this is the baseline. This is the best model if you train the original Conv TasNet using our data set. And then we use different alpha. So this alpha is the scale. So the alpha is the scale applied across the effective rank. If you remember, we have different effective ranks throughout these all 74 layers, and we apply this scale factor alpha. So alpha can range from 0.1 to 1.5. So if alpha is 1, which is exactly the effective rank. So if we use 0.5, which means half effective rank, right? So this is the scale, and we use a scale from 0.1, 0.2 until 1.5. And we also use a 4 rank. So the result is like this. When we factorize them immediately, this is the loss we get. And after factorization, we'll do fine-tuning. We'll continue to train or fine-tune the factored neural network, and this is the result we get. This is with much smaller loss. So the observation is that when we use an alpha of 0.8 to 1, which means we actually did 1.37 times or 1.1 times compression. So there is a reduction of the parameters. We get the best loss. For 0.8 is this number, for 1 is this number. So all of those numbers are actually slightly better than our baseline. So it means that for Conv TasNet, we can do a factorization and we can do a compression. We actually reduce the parameters. We reduce the parameters, we compress the neural network. The neural network gets smaller, but it performs a little bit better than the original one. Okay. When we apply more aggressive truncations, maybe 0.1 or 0.3, we get it hurts immediately, but fine-tuning recovers much of the loss. So you can see that if we use 0.3 or 0.4 alpha here, which means we actually truncated a lot, maybe 5 times or 4 times, but the loss here is still like below minus 13, which is, I would say, much acceptable in terms of source separation. However, when we use alpha larger than 1, which means we are not really compressing the neural network. We're actually expanding it. We're adding more parameters to the original Conv TasNet. So the gains are tiny, where compression disappears. So this is the full table of our experiment result for this first experiment. So you can see that when we use a moderate alpha here, we get a pretty good loss. When we add the parameters, when we do add more parameters, the gains are actually very marginal. So if we use alpha 1.5, the loss seems the performance seems better, but we are actually expanding the neural network. We are adding more parameters, so it's not worth it, I would say. Our goal is to compress, right, to make a smaller neural network. However, you can see here, we use alpha 0.3 or 0.4, so which means we compress the model 3 times. 3 times means we probably reduced more than 3 million parameters, but after fine-tuning, we are still recovering much of the loss, which is still well below 13, which is if you listen to the separated speech, I would say it's still very much acceptable loss. It's still good performance, but it reduces millions of parameters. So this is the first, that is first experiment. The second experiment is the early factorization, which means we pre-train the model very quickly. We just do a very short time or small warm-up to condition the neural network. And then we factor it and continue to train. So here in the experiment, we use epoch 1. So we train it for one epoch and then factorize. Or train 5 epochs or 10 epochs, then factorize. Okay. And we still use the effective rank. We still use the effective rank or half effective rank or quarter effective rank. So we can use more aggressive truncations here and see how the neural network works and if they can recover the performance. We also add in this ascending or descending rank schedules to see the different the effects of different rank schedules here. So I think it's just following most people's intuition that the later we do the factorization, the lower loss we get here. Okay, so which means that the effective rank outperforms smaller. Every schedule improves. Okay, so this is this one. Every schedule improves when factorization is delayed. So the later we do the factorization, the better performance we get. And also, for effective rank, the more rank we get, the better performance it is. So for the effective rank, the line is here. For half effective rank, the line is here, and for quarter the line is here, which means the more rank we get, the better performance we will get, after training. And for ascending and descending, ascending line is here and descending line is here. So you can see the descending line is well below the ascending one. So we conclude that the descending beats ascending, and it also converts much quicker than the ascending rank schedule. So we can see that after the stratification happens early, and the later checkpoints contain more mature dominant subspaces, and if we use more ranks, like using the effective rank, it will preserve much more performance if we continue to train. And this is the full table of our results for experiment 2. Okay, so we can point out that you can see this descending actually trains with like fewer epochs comparing to the ascending schedule, which means the descending actually not only beats ascending in terms of performance, but also of this training, the converging speed. So this is the second experiment. The third experiment is a little bit counterintuitive, actually, when we treat from scratch. So when we treat from scratch, at first we thought that it's the same as our previous experiments. The more rank we get, for example, the effective rank, the better training result we should have. So we started the experiment with the effective rank here and of uniform rank A80. However, the more rank actually does not give us a good performance. When we use more constrained rank, like uniform rank 40 here, so you can see there is a huge drop. And we can get much better performance here with fewer ranks. And then when we do more aggressive truncations, when we do use uniform rank 20, 10, or 5, the performance actually degrades. So this observation actually is kind of counterintuitive, which means that higher rank rows don't always give better performance. And when we use more moderate rank constraints, the training from scratch outperforms, either too few or too many ranks. So this line gives us this intuition here of this. So this is our 4 experiment table of training from scratch. So you can see that when we use, so uniform rank means all the 74 layers have the same rank, the same number of rank. Okay, so we experimented with 80, 40, 20, 10, and 5, and the result gives us that when we use uniform 40, it has the best performance. And here also we experimented with different rank schedules, like ascending and descending. So there's no very strong or obvious rules here, but the descending schedule, this one from 100 to 20, gives us better performance here. Also with some, compression. So from this result, we can see that, so although this loss is not, better than our baseline loss, but it's still like within this acceptable range to keep a good quality of the source separation. And it also compresses the model of like 2.5 times, reducing, I would say, maybe 2 million parameters here. And we can train from scratch. We can just, factorize. We don't need any pre-training, and we don't need to, build on the model based on some already pre-trained neural network. We can simply start with the factorized version, and just continue to train. So this is the third experiment. So here is a summary of what we did. What we established is that SVD, singular value decomposition, gives 2 complementary readings of Conv TasNet. The temporal filter can be viewed through Toeplitz theory, and the pointwise layers reveal subspace dynamics. And the low rank approximation is broadly applicable. We did post hoc fine tuning and early factorization, and also random initialization. And the effect of truncation and the compression is broadly applicable. And not established yet is that we didn't establish this acceleration. So we only explored compression, but not yet acceleration. So this is the sorry layer, which I adopted from Mark's work. It's called the sum of rank 1 layer. So it's mathematically the same as what we did, which is use the low rank, but here it's used different different vector. So this is the vector multiplication, and then adding together. So this might give a hardware acceleration effect, but this is not, is not explored in our work now. So not established is hardware latency or energy saving throughput. So we only focus on the compression side. And also the full Toeplitz theory for dilation stride, because we know in Conv TasNet, in the encoder decoder, we have the half size stride, and for TCN blocks, we also have different dilation factors. This is not established yet throughout the Szegő theory. So here are some future research directions. Okay, so here is just summarizing what I just said, and our numerical, the most significant numerical results. And for the code and results, you can find that on my GitHub. Okay, so that's all. Thank you.